Welcome to the Milk Bottle e-commerce show, brought to you by Milk Bottle Labs, one of the world's top-rated accredited Shopify experts. The Irish-based Milk Bottle Labs team upgrade, migrate, manage and advise some of the highest-performing Shopify stores worldwide. Founder Keith Matthews interviews merchants, developers, fellow agency owners and Shopify folk to share as many Shopify tips and tricks as possible. If you're planning on upgrading to Shopify 2.0 or migrating over to Shopify, reach out. Milk Bottle will help. This podcast is kindly supported by our favourite Shopify app. Rewind.io is the leading backup solution for Shopify. It's the cheapest insurance policy you'll ever get for your Shopify account, and it's supporting data. Now, over to Keith.
Hey folks, welcome back to the Milk Bottle e-commerce show. Today I am thrilled to introduce you to Marcus Seoighe. Marcus is the current CEO of Clean Canvas, a renowned digital design and development company headquartered in the UK, which boasts over a decade of expertise in crafting premium Shopify themes. Prior to this, Marcus served as the Senior Theme Partnership Manager at Shopify for more than 6 years, where he curated the Shopify store, diligently vetting new theme partners and ensuring impeccable standards within the theme store. Clean Canvas has grown to become the largest supplier of top-selling themes in the Shopify Theme Store and has achieved the highest concentration of best-selling themes across all theme partners, and has seamlessly integrated into the WeCommerce family of Shopify services and products. Today we'll go back to theme basics. We'll unpack Clean Canvas as a business, and we'll also unpack their new enterprise theme, which is feature-rich, and we'll also hear a little bit of history from Marcus, of his career and where he's come from. Marcus, welcome.
Thanks so much for having me. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. Thanks for bringing me on board.
Great to have you. You're a man from the West.
Indeed I am. Iron Islands originally, but
wow.
based in Galway, but I've lived in a couple of different areas. London, same as yourself. Spent a bit of time in Melbourne, but found myself drawn back home. So based.
Melbourne, my favourite city. We didn't talk about Melbourne at all.
Actually we have to get into that.
Oh, fantastic. Which island?
Inishmore. My parents from Inishmore. My grandmother is actually from Inisheer, my grandfather from Inishmaan, so it goes back a couple of generations, but yeah, we moved on to the mainland when just as I was sort of hitting this earth, and my dad was a teacher, so we'd basically spend the school term on the mainland and back out to the islands every summer, Easter, Christmas, so nice blend of the two.
Fascinating. So that recent Colin Farrell film then brought that was a big deal, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it just brought a huge amount of focus back onto the islands. And the interesting thing is where we are living now, myself and my wife, we bought an old stone farmhouse out in East Galway that we were renovating over the course of the lockdown. But there's a pub just down the road from us, and they actually got themselves the bar that was in the Banshees of Inisherin from the set, and they've re-established it in the little pub just down the road from us, which is really weird. Yeah.
So they now have a tourist attraction for the rest of their lives.
Absolutely.
Very clever.
Yeah, brilliant. Very clever business move.
Clever. Yeah. So you originally worked with Shopify?
That's correct. I sort of always say that I went in under false pretenses in one way. I went in because, no more than yourselves with the agencies and whatever, I was doing web design, graphic design, freelance work. Saw that Shopify had hit Irish shores. I had purposely stayed away from e-commerce clients which is weird that I've ended up in this space, because the systems that were there, and I'm sure you'll remember them at the time, the OpenCart, WooCommerce, Joomla, oh my God. Yeah. They put shivers up my spine. Completely. Nightmare. Yeah. So I veered away from that, but more and more clients were looking for this. So I was going, okay, Shopify, this newish platform to my knowledge. I come to Ireland. I said I'd go in, work for them for maybe a couple of months, get to know the platform from the inside, get insider knowledge, step back out, and then set up a service providing that as part of my freelance services. But 6.5 for nearly 7 years later, I was still there.
So you were one of the first employees then?
I was the second wave of employees in Ireland. I think the first round in Ireland were maybe 6 months or something like that ahead. And then just through people I knew that had started with them, they just started telling me about this. And the funny thing is, how I actually found out about it was the father of one of the girls that was working in Shopify that got hired in the first round was actually on the set of Jack Taylor, being filmed, and I was acting in that. And we were just chatting over coffee, chatting about websites. And he says, oh yeah, my daughter's joined that Shopify thing. Have you heard about that? And I was going, frantically Googling it. And then, the conversation kicked off from there. So it was actually on a TV set that I heard about it and then branched into it.
Now, let's not skip over that point.
Yeah, okay.
Because this is the one I find really interesting because I met you for the first time face-to-face up at the e-commerce event, Kevin Trainor's event in Belfast.
Yeah.
I think I met you that day.
Yes.
I was emceeing one of the rooms.
Yes.
And then later that evening, we met on the Game of Thrones tour.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, the tour guide made a comment, did we have any fans here? Mm-hmm. And somebody turned around and said, well, I was nearly on it.
Yeah.
Continue the story, please.
So, that individual happens to be me. I was doing an awful lot of acting at the time. I was in some TV shows, Ross and Roon, done a little bit of stint at Fair City, a few things like that. But I'd also been involved in stunt weapons fighting, historical combat, and so on. And through my agent at the time, got a call to say that they're going shooting this new series in Ireland and they're actually starting to get ready to shoot the second season. First season is pretty much in the bag. It's done, hadn't been released. So I went up, I auditioned. I think there was about 500 people. That got whittled down to 50. I got a call back. That got whittled down further to about 10. Came down to 2 people, myself and another guy. I think the other guy was based in the UK. Still at this stage, I had no idea what this show was. The first season hadn't come out. And then, got the unfortunate news to say that they've gone with the other guy. So I was there, didn't think anything of it at the time. Then Game of Thrones came out and then the hype came. And then I was almost in that series.
I won't dwell on the disappointment.
Yeah, well.
But would it not work that they'd call you back then for another part? No?
It's true. But I mean, at the same time, I didn't really push myself. I mean, I had an awful lot of other things going on at the same time as well. I think at that stage, given, and you'll know this as well, I mean, the acting circuit in Ireland is, to make a full-time professional career out of it here is exceptionally difficult. I mean, it's almost like freelance work in a way that, you could be exceptionally busy. For 6 months, you could be literally scratching the walls for the next 6 months. So it just varies. So at that time, I mean, I had an awful lot going on with like the freelance web design work and various other bits and pieces. So I think all my attention went into that. Plus, I mean, you're looking at Game of Thrones coming out and you're going, oh my God.
It's a monster, isn't it?
Oh, it was incredible.
The tour. For anybody that's ever up in Belfast, it's
I highly recommend it.
Yeah, it's a half an hour drive outside Belfast City.
Well, worth every minute of it.
And I'll finish on it by saying you don't have to be a fan of Game of Thrones to be impressed by the whole show, the whole tour. Well, look, it's a pleasure to meet you. And that's what has brought us here.
Yeah.
Right, let's just go back. So you're currently the CEO of Clean Canvas. Mm-hmm. So for the listeners who don't know who Clean Canvas are, I'm in the Shopify ecosystem and I know exactly who you guys are. We use your themes. Who is Clean Canvas?
Yeah, so Clean Canvas are one of the longest serving theme partners. And what I mean by theme partners are ones that have been vetted, curated and are listed on the Shopify Theme Store. Shopify Theme Store in itself is the benchmark, I suppose, for all premium themes or themes in the entire Shopify ecosystem. For the simple reason, to get listed there is a huge vetting requirements process I was instrumental in, and that was part of my job while I was there. And the requirements, the criteria, the standards, the vetting, it's all quite granular. So to achieve that listing it's an achievement in itself. Clean Canvas was set up around 2010, thereabouts. It was graphic design, web design, a lot of client services, print as well, print media. It was a big part of the business at the time. And they started to put a foray into Shopify, and they're one of the first theme partners to build a theme, to get listed on the Shopify Theme Store. At that stage, I think the Shopify Theme Store only opened, it was in April 2010 or 2009, sometime around then, I can't remember exactly. But Clean Canvas were one of the early players in that.
But if my memory serves me correctly, there was very few themes, premium themes, in the theme store at that time.
Yeah.
So is that because what you just said, they were very diligent, the standards were always kept very, very high?
Yep.
To the point where I'd say a lot of people just gave up.
Yeah, because we were, even more so than there is now, the theme store reopened, I suppose, for entrance once Online Store 2.0 was released. But prior to that, it was closed for a short period, literally while OS 2.0 was being built out, because the view was that we didn't want agencies and companies having to invest in a certain structure and framework of building themes, only to have to remap that onto the new one once it was launched.
So there was an educated reason for them to close it down.
Yeah, absolutely.
And were the partners aware of that?
They were at the time, yeah. It wasn't a decision that was taken lightly, and it was something that had intentionally only meant to be for a number of months, but then it obviously dragged on as...
Because the 2 upgrade was delayed, of course.
Yeah, absolutely.
Started and stopped. And
yeah.
Restart, whatever way you want to put it. But so you're one of the originals.
Yeah, one of the early stages. And it was founded by Kevin Pearce and John Llewellyn-Smith, 2 great guys. They literally started in a small barn somewhere in Guildford and built it up. And then as things progressed and as the platform grew in scale and size and value and, spread, I suppose, the 2 of them decided to really divert and pivot more of their service offering towards the Shopify themes and less towards print, less towards client services. And they had some notable clients and stuff at the time. But eventually, fast forward to, I think it was about 2018, 2019, all their operations were solely on Shopify. And they dispensed with print and everything else as well. So they literally mapped themselves into that area. Done a small dalliance with creating some apps, which they sold on as well. But it's 100% focused on Shopify themes now.
And the 2 founders, Marcus, were they developers? Were they marketeers? What was their background?
One was designer, and the other then was had a grounding in development, but was mainly business operations. So that was their main sort of focus coming into this, but very heavily design led to begin with. Obviously coming from the print background as well.
Okay. For those who don't know, could you explain the kind of structure of the theme ecosystem in terms of paid, non-paid? Obviously, any listener will now know that the standards are very, very high within the structure, but just explain how it works.
Yeah. I suppose breaking it down to fundamentals, what is a theme? A lot of people just think of them as a skin or a template that's installed. It gives a nice aesthetics, and that's what's presented out front to your end user on the online store. But they're far more ingrained into the platform than that, because these are, I suppose, living tools in a certain way. They dictate certain settings, features, your accessibility elements, not all of them, but a certain amount are leveraged through the theme. Performance impact as well. But an awful lot of the Shopify features, say dynamic checkout buttons, the likes of subscription payments, the likes of all these areas, these have to be pre-built into themes as well, using obviously the requirements and the standards that are presented by Shopify. So themes are the vehicles through which an awful lot of these features become available to merchants when they set up their store. So if you think about it in layers, you have your platform, which is Shopify. Obviously, there's various channels, your point of sale, your social media, various other integrations. But the online storefront, the next layer that goes on top of that would be the theme. And the theme plugs into that, and it provides configuration elements and features to a merchant so they can tweak their store and then present that to their end users for conversion, promotion, performance, so on. But it's a way that merchants don't have to spend an absolute fortune on having their own in-house design team, development team, and they can rely on the tenure, the experience and the knowledge of those people that are building these themes in the background. So it's pretty multifaceted tool. And, like websites, going sort of back to when I was doing an awful lot of web development myself, the biggest thing I used to always say to clients is a website is never a static element. It's an organic element. It needs to be updated, needs to be maintained, it needs to be, iterated on, even from, the fact that there's a new browser update, or there's a new device type, a new screen width, so on. So, every time there's a new release like that or a new element, the platform itself needs to be able to sort of factor that in. So, it's a multifaceted tool that ends up servicing not only the merchant user setting up their store, but also the end user, the customer experience as well.
There's one thing that has always struck me since day one. I think I found Shopify around 2009 maybe, or 8, and it wasn't even available in Ireland.
Very early days.
Early days. The ability to purchase in a single transaction all of what you've just described, to me personally, is absolutely bonkers.
I couldn't agree with you more. Yeah, it's
like that will never change though, by the looks of it. That's just the way it is, isn't it?
I tell you, so this is a topical point and has been even while I was at Shopify as well. The theme structure. Now, this is where it gets sort of complicated in terms of trying to sort of map out where the business model is dictated by the platform and also sort of affects and also presents an incredible opportunity to merchants. The Shopify Theme Store was set up and there was a benchmark price set at, the top would be 180 or whatever. But at the time, this is early stage platform thinking, because people in Shopify just wanted to encourage users at that stage. It was all about acquisition and getting people to use and adopt the platform.
Yes.
Now, I mean, it's almost a case of turning people away.
Exactly.
It's just so incredibly
popular.
Huge. It's become one of it's moved into that area of, it's almost a requirement as part of your tech stack if you're going to be selling online.
Selling in e-commerce, yeah.
So once we started to look at this with Online Store 2.0, we realized that, Shopify were dictating what the price cap was on a theme. But these products were becoming more complicated, more involved, requiring huge teams, huge amount of expertise, and delivering insane amount of value to merchants.
Just on that point, we'll talk about enterprise in detail in a minute, right? But the enterprise theme alone is saving customers thousands of man hours in developer time for whatever their agency or their a third-party freelance developer. It seems to me, and I won't dwell on in any way negative, but it seems to me like it's a little bit unfair that you guys should be developing such a beautiful product for the customer to only have to pay once when you've got customers paying $10 a month for apps that are like literally 2 lines of code. Now, these apps are performing and they're making customers money. But I'm assuming that you just get over that very quickly. That's just the way it is.
We just have to deal with it. I mean, there is a lot of conversations in the background about subscription models and so on and so forth. And I think that will inevitably have to come because these products, what you get for, say, $380 is insane. I mean,
it's insane,
the likes of Enterprise, if I had to roughly put a cost on what it cost us to build, and I would say this, the first version, which is the first release, the design, the development, the testing, QA, preparing support docs, etc., and all the man hours and stuff, people hours that went into that, you're talking well in excess of $150,000 to $180,000 or more. I mean, we couldn't actually put a figure on it. But the thing is, as well, is that's continual. We have to iterate, update, enhance continually. So and support as well, and all from a single fee. Whereas, as you said, it's saving merchants not only thousands of dollars on having their own design and development teams, but it also saves them in terms of particularly the enterprise theme, which we'll get to. We purposely built in as many elements into that would save merchants having to spend money on apps. What could be delivered through a theme without the need to plug in an additional app, which will add obviously performance, bloat, cost, etc. And we could deliver well through a theme. We built that in. So we're also saving them in that regard as well.
Just hold that thought for 1 second while we listen to our sponsors. Rewind.io is the leading data backup solution for your Shopify store. Did you know that there is no way of recovering lost data in Shopify? If your store is gaining traction, you may have multiple staff or third-party developers entering your store. Mistakes can happen and data can be easily deleted. Rewind.io puts you in control of your data, allowing you to restore anything accidentally lost from a single image to an entire store. It acts as a pretty cheap insurance policy for your Shopify account. At Milk Bottle, we help clients reduce their business risk by installing Rewind in every single store before we make any changes. Get your first month for free by simply replying to your sign-up email. Now, you guys have some of the best-selling themes in the Shopify Theme Store. You've got Symmetry, you've got Canopy, and we've used them all. Let's just focus on Enterprise. Enterprise is a theme that you launched after Online Store 2 was launched.
Yep.
And I'm not saying it because you're in front of me, but you have seriously ramped up. It is feature rich. Yeah. The list of features on this theme is absolutely bonkers.
Yeah.
So just give us a flavour of the history. Like, you came from inside Shopify to outside Shopify to join the team that produced what we believe in Milk Bottle Labs, and from a developer point of view is by far above and beyond anything that we've ever seen before. And actually removes our effort out, okay, which is not a threat to agencies.
No,
that's actually a great thing that we can switch on features and customize after. What's the history of it? And, just give us the background to it.
Well, first of all, thanks for the kind words on it. Greatly appreciated. But that, I mean, there was a couple of angles that we wanted to come at this with. Obviously, when Dawn came out with Shopify, the big push was their performance and, more native JS, a nicer structure and so on.
Just for our listeners, Dawn, when Shopify introduced Online Store 2, was it June 2021 or 2020?
2020, I think, wasn't it?
2020. Yeah. Dawn was the first native Shopify theme, free theme that was online store, two-powered.
Yep.
A question for the Booby Prize. Can you remember the original theme that was the Shopify theme?
Debut.
Debut.
Yeah, I remember them all.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, Enterprise.
So Enterprise, so Shopify sort of, they laid the cards on the table as regards, let's go native JS, let's try to make things lightweight, more performance. Toby Luke himself said like performance was a big thing that he wanted to focus on and gave the remit to all areas across Shopify to try and improve. The themes area came up with Dawn, they released this, then obviously the theme partners were going, you know what, let's start to model what our underpinning code frameworks would look like and how can we improve on that. Clean Canvas started working on their own boilerplate system to look at every area, because being the largest supplier of themes in the theme store is great, but it also comes with its own burdens. And when you're building a theme from scratch at those particular junctures that they built them at, you're building to the best coding standards at that particular time. So, you might have one theme built in one way, another built in another, and so on, as you learn more over the years. So you're trying to maintain several themes that have different frameworks that, you're patching over and back. So we took a step back, said, no, we're going to look at what could be the most pervasive base that we can create that is as performant, it's as accessible, it's, as you said, feature rich, it's extensible as well. We built with developers and end users in mind, which we can get to in a minute. So we created this framework and we based Enterprise off this. And we released this as our flagship theme with this new structure and framework in mind. Now we're on the level of, once that went out, we've seen the success that it's garnered. All our other themes we're porting them over onto the same framework as well. Symmetry is due out quite soon. There's going to be incredible performance gains, huge range of new cool features and stuff coming with that. That'll be out hopefully before BFCM. Canopy and a few others will then shortly roll out thereafter. But within Enterprise, it was almost at the stage when we were trying to write the user guides for this. We were going, we've so many features. We could spend months writing stuff in here. Yeah. So we're still actually trying to catch up on our user guides after releasing this theme in April because there's so much in it. Yeah. The other thing then is, to your point as well, we built it with extensibility in mind. We exposed the JS events. We left code comments. We structured everything with the intention that agencies and people could use this to manipulate and build on top of it for their client work, thereby, taking an awful lot of the lift off you guys on those early stages. But yeah, it's been an incredible journey, and all of our themes will be mapped over onto the same framework over the next 12 months.
So you mentioned code splitting. Can you explain what that is?
So code splitting, essentially the way a website would have loaded, it would have loaded, various pages or files. Let's say, you load your JavaScript, you load your jQuery, you load your CSS, and the browser would essentially load all of these elements in, even if only part of that code was actually being used on that particular page or that particular element. Shopify started support HTTP2, which allowed us then to say that we can create loads of small files or little code snippets, which essentially means that the browser only has to call in the pieces of code that it needs for that particular element, thereby reducing a huge amount of the performance bloat, so it can load quicker and faster. And then we also removed all jQuery out of as well, all third-party library dependencies, and then we done it all in native JS. Yeah, obviously leveraging Tailwind CSS and the likes of. But yeah, that was a huge part of it.
And you used this theme to basically restructure the future of all of your.
Absolutely.
So you're basically having to rebuild your entire portfolio.
Absolutely, yeah. No small feat. So we're doing that currently in the background. So yeah, it's that fine balance point between investment in future iterations and innovations, and then obviously just current maintenance and upkeep and support. So I'm not even going to call it risk. We just knew that this had to be done. So we spent an awful lot of time over 2022 in particular, just really focusing in on making sure that we had honed this to the best possible sort of framework we could create. And that said then as well, one of the biggest strengths that we have at Clean Canvas is we have an incredible QA and testing team. Two women, Susie and Laura. Susie's been there like 10 years now. So her amount of accumulated and tenured experience around themes is just, it's unparalleled. So while we were developing these, we were setting this against every bit of testing and benchmark and prior knowledge that we've accumulated over, say, the 10 plus years. to ensure that whatever we produced at the end of it was going to be the best in class. And I think we've achieved that.
So customer experience. So I have a store and I download Enterprise and I pay $380 for it, okay? And if you're running a successful store, $380 is just, it's insignificant.
It really is.
And it's pizza money, really.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So somebody puts it into the store, somebody builds out the theme, and then they publish it. You guys have to then stay on top of all of the Shopify updates.
Yep.
So you're constantly updating that theme. So what sort of a roadmap do you have? Do you push out updates every 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks? How does that work then after?
I suppose the way we look at it is we have maybe 2 or 3 different reasons for updates, I suppose. We have Shopify-led ones, which is new Shopify features. Generally, they'll come with a bit of instruction from Shopify with the requirements, the setup, the codes and whatever.
Do they give you advance notice? Where they can, I'd say.
Yeah, where they can. They generally do. It used to be part of my job while I was at Shopify is that we would actually work with the product teams internally, map out these features, map them into roadmaps with the theme partners on the theme store, and we'll work out timeframes. Now, obviously with the theme store being opened and new theme partners coming in and teams internally in Shopify being streamlined, it's not always that easy to do this. Yeah. So it's a case of where they can, we do get a certain amount of notice. Yeah. And then, so we factor that into our roadmaps. Then there's that. So that's Shopify-led alterations. Then we've got, say, bug fixes or general maintenance, which might be new iOS browser element or a new device type or whatever it is. So those, what we will do is once we start getting reports of this, or our testing team pick it up, we'll rank these priorities of what these bugs are like, and we'll rate them as, must fix immediately, or something that we will fix in the next update, which could be potentially 6 weeks down the line or whatever, or stuff that's low priority that we'll fix at some other given stage. That's like a very rare edge case scenario. And then we've got our own innovation and enhancements, which is the exciting one, which we
So you're actually constantly improving the improvements that you already.
Yeah,
that's quite complex.
It's mind-boggling sometimes. Yeah, it's trying to maintain that history as well of like where we've been with each version and what we've done, and keeping the change logs and the task lists, and making sure that because every single version that we create that's released is vastly improved on the prior. And it's just making sure that, whatever we're moving forward to as well, beyond that, is obviously all that tenured improvements is baked in under that as well.
So let's say I'm running a successful store and I download Enterprise, I install it, and then I publish it. And I customize it, not from a code point of view, but I add a few apps, What happens then when you push the update?
Yeah, so this is the complicated thing as well with the way the Shopify platform works. There is, I suppose, there's 2 types of updates. There's one that can be like what they call internally in Shopify is a mass upgrade or an automatic upgrade, which once you press the update button, it just literally updates it, no effect on your current store or anything that you've done by injecting any themes, customizations, and so on. Then there's what might be a breaking change, which could be a pretty significant restructure of some of the code in the files that requires a reset up. And I think that's where a lot of people run into the fear about updating. Now, there is a shameless plug here. One of the our WeCommerce family, Pixel Union, have a great app called the Theme Updater app.
Yes.
So we've currently just made sure that all our themes are compatible with that. Leveraging something like that, if there is a breaking change, you can literally run through this Theme Updater app and I'll show you exactly where the code differences happen and all you do.
And is a developer needed for that?
No, absolutely not.
No.
Yeah, it's and they have a great support team there as well. Okay. Needed on top of that.
So we heavily customize themes.
Yeah.
If Milk Bottle Labs completes a job for somebody and 12 months later they've gone down the road.
Yeah.
And then they press update.
Yeah.
That's a bigger job, isn't it?
Oh, completely it is. And that's there's no easy way around these things. It's just the way the platform is set up. Content portability and customized changes and stuff like that. It's not under the ownership of themes independently, or it's not under the ownership of apps independently. It's more to do with the platform and how it handles that content portability across them. So, listen, going back to that e-commerce event that we were up at Kevin Traynor and those, there was one talk where they had a rake of, industry leaders and various merchants, and they're talking about their new type of teams that they have to have. So it's not just the front of house manager. It's not just, the feet on the floor, the operations and so on, and supplies and logistics. They actually have to have a tech team. And, people look at these things as, I'll pay this one-off job, get it done, and that's it, out of the way. Not the case.
Yeah.
This needs continual management.
Goes back to your original point.
Yeah.
That it needs continuous management.
Has to be. Yeah. I mean, it's like a car. It's like anything else. You can drive it for so long, but, parts wear down or elements happen and they need to be replaced or changed or upgraded. And, that is just part of what we live in. Technology is advancing at such a rapid state that, to think that you're going to create one particular element at one point in time and that's going to do you for, however long, it's naive thinking, to be honest.
Yeah, somebody said something really intelligent lately. Shopify is updating, like this year they've had, 300 or 400 updates.
Yeah.
It's updating so quickly that it's nearly impossible to stay updated on the entire platform.
Yeah.
But us as agencies, we can stay updated on the customer's Shopify store. And the truth is that if you're running a successful store, you cannot run it without pushing out multiple updates every year.
Yeah.
I think that's a cost of success. At a minimum, it's a cost of success.
Yeah, I think, it's just recurring investment. I mean, it's investment into your business. It's making sure that you're staying on top of marketing trends or, whatever, operating costs. This is a vital part of the business. Yeah. And I think, people need to look at agencies like yourselves and go, do you know what, this is a partnership that they create with you guys because ye are giving them access to tools and updates and abilities that for them to hire in-house would be exorbitant and to even put it mildly. Yeah. And that's obviously like the same for us in supplying themes. If you were to build your own theme and try and maintain it and keep the updates and keep those elements, you'll be paying a lot of money to do that. So it's a chain of elements that link together. But I see this, it's a continuous cycle if you want to stay relevant.
I'm going to ask you a question now completely, about a bit of a banana skin. I'm always intrigued by this. Has mobile destroyed e-commerce in one way? Like you've got these beautiful designs, and we work on desktops.
Yeah,
I think Shopify's Shopify Pay has actually made purchasing on the mobile like so much more convenient, and I'm sure they will tell you that the conversion rates are through the roof. But you open up Enterprise on a desktop, and it's this beautiful structure, and then you narrow it down to mobile. Yeah, and it's disrespectful to say that all websites look the same.
Yeah, I know what you mean. But
mobile is destroying design.
Yeah,
what's your team's view on the inside with that?
I'd say the designers would agree, the developers wouldn't, because there's so much under the hood. I mean, that like literally the surface value of Enterprise and how, for us, we just don't design an aesthetic that's stagnant or in your, it's set. We have to think about, I suppose, omni design, if you want to call it that way, where we create a tool that while we put out the presets in a pre-configured default setting, every single one of our sections can be configured in a different manner, way, shape, or form. And we have to design how that looks in every scale, in every setting, and how it sits with others. So we create one initial design, and then we basically work through trying to change that to every conceivable different angle, option, and whatever setting we can, and then work on the design of that. So massive iteration.
So I've just generalised.
Okay, well, I mean, but I totally agree with you. When you go onto mobile, you've got a tiny little screen size to actually work with. So there's only so much you can put there, and is that fine balance of, having nice form but good function. But there's so much magic under the hood of what happens. There's an art form to the creation of that as well. And like where I said earlier, we've dispensed with all third-party libraries and whatever out of Enterprise. We do use one. And it's a small one, but it's quite valuable. But it is sort of for desktop experience, but it just gives you an idea of the sort of stuff that goes on behind the scenes. There's performance and page load is obviously a huge impact to conversion, and people's patience is like so small when they're shopping. But we have a system where when a person hovers over a link on the Enterprise theme, there is, I think the developers might correct me on this, but it's like 0.6 of a millisecond of a delay between a human hovering and clicking.
Right.
In that time, this little library that we have will load that link in the background. So by the time the human actually gets to click, the page is loaded in the background, so it feels like it's almost instantaneous. So that's a little bit of like the magic under the hood that you wouldn't see at a surface level.
You've described hours and hours and hours of development and thought and planning in one little hover of the finger.
Absolutely. And you're thinking about user experience and customer experience at the end of that. And that, you know, I mean, there's so much to all of these elements that we have that are baked into the development side of it and the code, that there's as much magic and beauty in that, if you're into that type of thing, as there is in the actual sort of aesthetics and the greater layout on a wider screen version.
Yeah, I get you. No, I get you. It's interesting. So, Marcus, we've talked about Shopify, we've talked about themes, we've talked about the ecosystem. You've mentioned Milk Bottle, the partner channel. We've actually discussed the entire ecosystem. Yeah. One of the biggest cost centers in any business is support. Yeah. So if you have so many customers downloading your themes, I find personally that some of the support queries will come to us. Yeah. As people will say, talk to your developer. Shopify, I know, gets an awful lot of chat and then they're sent to the agency or to yourselves. What kind of support structure do you guys have right now to support, number one, your new theme, but also your future plans? Yeah.
So, I mean, support it's a massive part of it now. This is the weird sort of conundrum that we're in as well, as like, we only get paid, as you said, our business model. We get a one-off payment. The theme is purchased, and that's it. Essentially, in any normal business model, you go, well, that's the product sold. We don't need to worry about it, and we should almost not provide customer support because we're not getting paid for it. But we do, and we provide an exceptional level of it. We have ex-Shopify members that we use on our support team. They are highly specialised in our products. They also keep on top of, like, you know, the latest releases of what's happening in Shopify, and they're talking to merchants using our themes like hours every day, nonstop. We've probably about, several hundred tickets or inquiries per week. So all of that interaction that we have keeps us very close to the users of our product. And I even jump in on support on time to time as well, just to obviously keep a pulse check, I suppose, on people, you know, how they use our products, and just to show that we actually really do value every bit of feedback we have coming in. So we use that as phenomenal user research and help shaping our future plans. And that means that we're not, you know, deciding this stuff in a boardroom or some other area that's removed from actual real life use cases. We're having real conversations with people using this stuff in the real world and basing serious decisions on our product based on that. We try and provide as white glove a service as we can. I think if you go onto the Shopify Theme Store and look at, you know, the reviews on our themes, says it all there really in a lot of ways. But we're also, in terms of, you know, future scaling, AI, which is like, you know, the big thing that's been a sleeping behemoth in the background and is literally going to change our lives over the next 10 to 20 years. We're leveraging an AI tool not to replace, but to assist our support team. And that's the big thing. We want to keep the human interaction. We want people to know that there is people behind it, because fundamentally every part of this, the entire commerce chain, the entire thing, it's just human experience.
But AI in your case makes perfect sense because you have thousands of pages of content which AI can digest and pop out a link or an answer to it. Yeah. So that's really clever. That's not replacement, sure it's not.
No, not at all. It gives a better tool to our support team to be able to answer questions faster, quicker and more accurately as well. So we've a massive amount of tenured resources around support, frequently asked questions, so on. So for our team to be able to leverage that instantaneously and deliver then to merchants speeds up their go-to-markets or whatever stage they're at with their question, and obviously helps our support team then deliver the best-in-class service as well. Yeah.
Marcus, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you.
Oh, and likewise, absolute pleasure. Thanks so much for having me here, Keith.
Well worth the wait. But before we go, if you have purchased the enterprise theme and you are interested in a secret gift, simply email Marcus. We'll put Marcus's email details in the show notes with instructions. And if you share the URL of your store.
Yes. And that's it, absolutely. And obviously, if you subscribe to this podcast as well.
Oh, sorry, I have to get a subscriber. Okay.
That's it. We'll have a secret little gift for the first 10 that we have in the door.
Perfect. And we'll put all of the links to what we discussed, to Clean Canvas, to the Shopify Theme Store, to the Enterprise Theme. Marcus, it was an education.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Yeah. Pleasure.
It's rare that you can get an insight into what goes on that side, because everybody's obsessed with apps and agencies are obsessed with agencies. So thank you so much for your time.
No problem. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening. All of our episodes are available on Apple, Spotify, iTunes and Google Podcasts. If you're an e-commerce professional with an exciting story to tell, reach out to the team on hello@milkbottlelabs.com. Until the next time, take care.